Olá, sejam bem-vindos a mais um Agroamérica, um programa produzido em parceria com o Instituto Interamericano de Cooperação para a Agricultura. Aqui nós falamos sobre boas práticas agrícolas que podem ser reproduzidas nos 34 estados-membros do hemisfério americano em prol de uma agricultura mais sustentável e o bem-estar rural. Hoje o nosso assunto é sobre as indústrias leiteiras, cooperativas e associações dos Estados Unidos. O meu entrevistado é Jaime Castaneda, que representa essas indústrias, e estamos aqui direto da Costa Rica para falar um pouco mais sobre esse mercado. Jaime, thank you so much for this interview. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I wanted to start, could you give us an overview of what does the dairy market in the U.S. look like?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Gabriel. So the United States is the largest milk producer in the world from cow's milk, not including buffalo in India. We're also the largest exporter of cheese in the world. We're the largest exporter of skim milk powder. And we're the largest exporter of whey products, all sort of whey products. So many people don't realize actually how large the United States is when it comes to actually milk production. We have the most per capita production of milk per cow. So we are the most productive, the most efficient, and obviously the United States is a large country, and we have different types of producers. We have large producers, small producers, medium. We have grazing, we have intense production. So we cover pretty much everything.
What does your sustainability protocol, in order to have such a large production rate, deal with also environmental issues? How does it work in the United States? What are the themes? What are the, I would say, main factors that really stir the industry towards a sustainable direction?
Yeah, that's a great question, because the United States actually was, dairy industry was one of the first industries that actually began talking about sustainability when pretty much nobody was talking about sustainability many years ago. And one of the first things that we did is to try to address productivity. There's two schools of theory in the world. I think the European one that would like to actually reduce the amount of animals that Brazil has, and the United States school of thought that it is about increasing productivity and reducing the amount of emissions and trying to cover those emissions, trying to actually just overall. So the simple mind of the European Union and the vegan animal against animal production perspective that we, everybody who is actually involved in animal production, we're killing the planet, you know, and it's completely false narrative. And this European approach that simply have actually taken the narratives of this extreme position, extreme NGOs, is definitely detrimental, especially for the Latin America and the Americas, but especially the Latin America. Instead, the United States perspective is one that we have to actually increase productivity. So in other words, I mean, instead of having 5 cows to produce 100, let's improve that productivity without reducing those 5 cows. Let's actually make sure that those 5 cows produce 200. And that way, we can actually fulfill the needs of animal protein. It's very simple for somebody who is very well off in the European Union, in a rich country, to talk about reducing the amount of animal protein compared to actually so many countries. We were just in AICA here, and we have heard over and over, and I was in FAO, about how many hungry people are in the world. So we need actually more production. We need more farmers. We don't need less. So what we need to do is to find innovation. We need technology to address emissions, but also not to point just to agriculture. Come on. Agriculture compared to other sources of emissions, like everything that from automobiles. I'm here in Costa Rica, in which it is amazing the amount of cars that for a small country. Look at how many people are on airplanes. So let's actually be fair and let's be honest more than anything. So the United States and actually most countries are willing to do their part on agriculture in general, but animal production, on trying to actually reduce and more than anything control the amount of emissions. But we're not going to actually be submissive to these extreme views of just a few in very rich countries like in European Union.
What does the United States, I guess, the different laws and the protocols in order to reduce, let's say, methane emissions from the dairy industry, what does that look like today?
Yeah, no, that's great. The current administration and Congress have actually passed a number of different laws and incentives. So this is the other side, Instead of actually using a stick, I think the United States is using a carrot. And that carrot is to actually provide incentive for creating this technology, this innovation. So for instance, one is about feed additives. I think that actually there was a conversation, I think by the Nobel Prize, Mr. Kerner, I think that's his last name, about these feed additives. These feed additives given to actually animals reduces the amount of burping. A lot of people think that actually the emissions come from the end of the cow. No, it comes actually because the cow burps when they actually are consuming their food. So that's one. Another one is to actually create methane digesters. I don't know if you're familiar with what is methane digester.
Can you explain?
Yeah, sure. So methane digester is this equipment that allows actually all the manure that emits also methane, then to be collected in one recipient that it is covered and is protected, and use that methane that actually doesn't go to the atmosphere and create actually energy. And that actually it is well propagated in the United States, and it is going to be even more. So you protect not only the environment by actually lowering the amount of emissions from manure, but actually you also are generating energy.
Is this a cost-effective technology, or is this a type of technology, let's say, that different associations or cooperatives have to bind together to purchase and implement that type?
It is cost-effective for certain farmers that actually have certain amount of cows. So if you have maybe in the United States, a small farmer is about 200 cows or less. I know that in other countries that is not a small farmer, but in the United States, if you have 600 cows, for instance, 700 cows, you can actually afford a methane digester, and then more. The government is intervening to actually do exactly what you're saying, to try to actually collect this manure and form local, what is called municipalities in the United States, in which that municipality is actually using waste, not only manure, but it's food waste, to generate energy.
Fair enough. That's incredible. Yeah. How does that work in the value chain of the dairy industry, from the moment it is extracted up to the moment it's sold? Many countries around the world are having challenges in order to make let's say, sales better for the producers, and so that the producers can actually receive an adequate amount of money in comparison to what the production cost is. Now, the United States has a high productivity rate. How do you guys work out that cost-effective measure?
Yeah, that's a challenge everywhere. You know, farming is a difficult. I'm not gonna try to sweeten the reality that in the old days, many years ago, you have this ideal sort of a utopia perspective of view of what a farm was. No, just a farm with a few cows and little sheep, and in the movies and everything. The reality is that that view of the farm is pretty much gone. I'm not saying you cannot have your cows and everything as a hobby, but if you want to be in business, you have to become not only a farmer, but a business person. So in the supply chain process, everybody's trying to actually make money. Like I said to someone here, you know, companies are in the industry, in the business to make money. They're not charity. Farmers are in the business not to make money, to survive, but also because they have this attachment to the land. So what I believe is that the governments need to actually provide all the resources to make sure, it's like education, you know, whether you do whatever you want to do with that education, it's up to you, okay? What it is important is that the government actually provide education, equal opportunities for everybody from the start. And it is the same thing for farmers. Yeah, then, you know, there are gonna be farmers that are gonna look at this and they're gonna look at doing business. And other farmers are more as farmers because they just want to be attached to the land. And unfortunately, as we move into the future with greater technology, greater variability on prices, with greater climate change, with greater, I'm telling you, farmers that are not business people, business person, are going to have a hard time into feeding that. It's the same thing with companies or anyone is going to have a hard time.
So cooperatives and associations in the United States, they have to have a certain posture to sell their products to the buyer, but how is that price regulated in the United States?
Yeah, price is not regulated in the United States. The price is actually the market price. What we do have is what is called a milk marketing order. So you try to actually defend the farmers in a way that like a huge retailer, for instance, cannot take one farmer against another farmer. So the US government, for the most part, not every single state, but in many states in the United States, what the US government does is they go into the market and they find what the market price is, what people are buying and selling product. And then they use an equation to actually have a price of milk, just the milk, not the cheese or just the milk. And then they tell those folks in different states that they have to actually pay that price as a minimum. But that price that it is the minimum, it's a market price. So it's not regulated by the United States, it's the market price. But the reason that it is done is because imagine one of your huge retailers in Brazil, that if you're a dairy farmer and you're a dairy farmer, and then I go to you and they say, well, I'll buy all your production, but you have to give me, sell it for 10 cents. And then you're saying, okay, well, then I go to him and I say, okay, I'll buy everything if you sell it for 9 cents. And then they can play you against each other. And you as a farmer don't have other resources, other places to actually sell your milk. So that's what this idea, this concept is to try to avoid huge retailers to go and try to actually have one farmer against another farmer.
Jaime, we're going to go to a short break. And when we come back, I want to talk more about your export policies.
Sure.
Para você que está aí, fique por aí que o AgroAmérica já volta. Olá, sejam bem-vindos de volta ao AgroAmérica, hoje falando com Jaime Castaneda, que representa as empresas e as indústrias e cooperativas de leite nos Estados Unidos. Jaime, thanks again for your presence here. I want to talk about export policy in the United States. As the largest exporter in the world, I assume that there's quite a rigid policy to ensure that producers earn for what they're exporting. And what does it look like in numbers today? How much do you export a year on average? And afterwards, I'll ask you some more questions.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gabriel. So the United States actually exports about 18% of the total production. So we produce 100, we export 18%, which on average, actually other countries can export a little less. Countries like New Zealand actually exports 90% because they have tremendous amount of number of cows and they have very few people. So our market is actually one of the largest markets too. We actually export, as I was saying, a number of different products. But this is not something that actually the United States did, for a long, long time. We began exporting seriously about 24 years ago. And we actually began exponentially growing, especially with China, when China began growing, and also with a number of free trade agreements that we had, like Mexico. But before 1999, year 2000, Europe actually is the one who has been exporting for centuries, right? So what has happened over the last 24 years is that the United States dairy farmer, their income, their overall revenue is actually more and more attached to the level of exports. And it has also given an opportunity for dairy farmers to keep growing. We have less farmers, and that's true, but that's more because regular attrition is when, it's not necessarily because of low prices, although that has happened, but it is more because as our dairy farmer population ages, the young generations, a lot of them don't want to actually stay at the farm, because a lot of what I was saying before, it's a difficult sector to be. So you have to actually be committed. You have to invest a lot of money. There is a saying that is so true, that a farmer is cash poor most of their life. And when they die rich because of the amount of assets that they have. But those assets means nothing. Those assets are like the land, the barn, the cows. So in principle today, our dairy farmers would actually suffer significantly economically if we were not for exports.
So how does the technology of things today come into play? Here at ICA, during this large ministerial meeting, we've understood through many presentations the importance of reducing fertilizers, trying to enrich the soil, protect the soil, by presentation of Ratan Lal, who won the World Food Prize, and the Nobel of Economy, Michael Kremer, who is a professor at the University of Chicago. He presented opportunities and examples in order to implement simple technology that can make farmers' life easier and more cost efficient. How does it work in the United States, given the importance of the U.S. dairy industry for the country?
Yeah, no, we're advancing on technology. I mean, I welcome you to come and visit. I would love to take you to some of our farms, and you will be amazed of how productive and how happy the cows are. Especially a message for my friends from the vegan side that actually they think that all the animals are mistreated and everything. No, the animals are super happy because the farmer, in order to get actually the milk, they need to give comfort to those cows.
What does that look like in practical terms?
Different farms have different things. In basic terminals is that actually comfort for the cow to actually eat whenever they want to eat, comfort for the cows to actually rest whenever they want to rest in a comfortable place. So that's basically to always be protected. No,
with shade, I guess?
Yeah. So it's interesting because there is a farmer in Oregon, in the state of Oregon, that actually he has both. No, the cows can be inside or can be outside. Many people think, oh, the cows needs to be outside. The cows will figure it out. No, so he opens the doors, and guess what? The cows don't go out if the weather is not good. It's like us, no? If it's raining outside, why would we want to actually be outside? So it's the same thing, no? So it's in general, that's the overall principle, but technology and comfort and how to animal care, that's what it is actually more than anything.
Fantastic. Jaime, we're finishing up. I wanted to know what were your impressions during this ministerial meeting with everything that was spoken about. There were many presentations done about the importance of increasing sustainability, the importance of integrating regional trade. There are a lot of small countries, especially in the Caribbean, who are looking to improve also their agricultural sector, reduce their import bill. What did you take from that, given that you're representing the U.S. dairy industry?
A few points. One, I think that the importance of trade, the message from the Director General that actually we should not apply other regions' views. We have to create our own view. And more important than anything, I mean, that technology needs to be shared. We need to figure out a way that, and I agree with that not only rich countries or wealthy countries can have technology. That technology needs to actually be shared, but needs to be shared with those farmers that wants to be business farmers. No, we can't just try to. Everybody talks about the small farmer, the small farmer. I don't think any small farmer wants to be a small farmer, to be honest. I think that actually small farmers, and everybody puts small farmers as if it's like, you know, they're in church, in a platform. I think that I want to take away that the Director General is doing an excellent job, that ICA is actually trying to defend the interest of the region around the world. But actually more important than anything is that we need to actually talk less and act more. We need to have actions. I heard probably 90% of people that wanted to take action and less, you know, the demagogue, you know, those speeches of populism. If you would have come to ICA maybe 20 years ago, it would have been the reverse. 90% of demagogue, populism, and very small about actions. I think that this is the work of the Director General.
Is the United States ready to share technology with other countries?
I think that the United States, we're happy to actually have this conversation, this discussion with other countries. I think the U.S. government, especially this administration, I think has reached out to a number of folks. I think that organizations like AICA, like FAO, and others, and actually the Inter-American Bank for Development. I mean, we need to work through all these different, again, to try to help the farmer who wants to be helped and who actually wants to be a business person.
Fantastic. Jaime Castaneda, thank you so much for this
Sure.
interview.
My pleasure.
Eu entrevistei Jaime Castaneda, que representa a indústria leiteira dos Estados Unidos, e nós falamos, né, sobre mercado, produtividade, sustentabilidade e exportação. Para você saber mais sobre este assunto e este programa, nos siga nas nossas redes sociais e confira o nosso canal YouTube, @AgroMaisTV. Eu fico por aqui e te aguardo no nosso próximo programa.